Joining us now, Congressman, 9th District, big win there for Republicans in Southwest Virginia. Congressman Morgan Griffith, great to have you, sir.
Great to be with you. Wish it was a better morning, but it's good to be with you.
All right, so let me just ask you this. You served in the State House. You served at a time where Republicans were in the minority, then in the majority. What happened last night?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. There wasn't a consistent message. Our folks didn't talk about the economy the way they should have, or the way that Virginia is doing great in business. And in all fairness, for suburban women, we should have been sending out all kinds of stuff and talking on the radio about how right to work, instead of just saying businessmen are afraid of it, we should have said it's going to affect jobs. Unemployment, will go up as a result of if they get control and repeal right to work. And even if the Senate is the firewall, the House is going to vote to repeal right to work. The House is going to vote to allow teacher strikes. That's what's going to happen, in my opinion, based on who's won these elections. And most suburban women don't want to see their schools shut down because of a teacher strike. And if you started talking about it in ways that suburban women, maybe you could have done better. Now, some of these seats, look, nobody is going to outwork Tim Hugo. So some of these seats we were going to lose anyway, when you look at the numbers after the fact. But the fact that there wasn't a message. And then I will tell you one thing that struck me last night as I was scrolling through all the results. And it was a battle I fought a lot when I was in Richmond when we were trying to make strategy. Too many times our side wants to double down on the ones that we think we can win or on the incumbents. You got to spread the field. There were an awful lot of Democrats who we probably couldn't have beaten, but if we had run a candidate with just a little bit of money, it would have spread out the money that was coming in from out of state, and they wouldn't have been able to laser focus on the seats that they wanted to keep and take away from us. But we had a lot of seats. I looked as an example, and I'm not saying we would have beaten her, and she's done a nice job for her people. But Chanel Herring, we in a special election came within 17 votes of beating her once. You throw somebody out there that just gets out and knocks doors, works hard on the ground, they win. Now, I'm getting old. It made me feel really old when everybody says the first time that the house is flipped in a generation. I'm like, yeah, I was there. Oh my gosh, I must be getting old. But I will tell you, in 1979, I was still in college, but I went and worked in the Brad Mullins for state Senate campaign. We had no chance of winning. We knew we had no chance of winning, but we ran to keep then Senator Buzz Emick out of the Roanoke City race. And in the Roanoke City race, the Republican was able to win. So we always felt like we got an assist on that one, and that was a big takeaway. We were in the minority then, and you did things like that. You knew you were going to be outspent. When I first ran for the House of Delegates, I was outspent about 2.5 to 1. Same thing happened when I ran against Boucher for the race here in the 9th District. We were outspent. You know you're going to get outspent. That means you have to outwork and you have to knock doors, and you have to have a message. You have to have a clear and consistent message. And I do think that we didn't do that, and I do think that we probably should have run some candidates or asked some people to take one for the team, knowing they would lose. But put your name on the ballot and get out there and hustle, and we'll see what happens. And sometimes you win those races, as the Democrats did 2 years ago. They won some races nobody ever expected because they put somebody's name on the ballot. I'm not saying that would have happened in many races, but it would have spread that money out.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And, you look at these races, Congressman, and so many of the Democrats were unopposed. Right down the lane, both in the Senate and in the House. And they put candidates up everywhere. I don't think, except for some of the areas of Southwest Virginia, like Terry Kilgore and things like that, there was a Democrat on the ballot. I was getting calls and texts yesterday from people going to vote saying, why isn't there a Republican on the ballot that I can vote for in district after district? So, they didn't tie anybody up. They got all the money. But the biggest thing is here, Congressman, is there was no message. And the inability for Republicans to tie a great Virginia economy, number one in business, number one in income growth, number one in so many areas, and a tax cut. People just got $100, $200, $300 back in the mail and a tax cut. The inability for Virginia Republicans to tie that back to them when they were in charge was mind-boggling to me, and they never even attempted it.
Yeah, it's a problem. And look, RPV has had a lot of problems for a number of years, and it goes back a decade or so. We have to figure out how to reinvent it. It's been struggling though, and a good chairman, who's really aggressive can make a little bit of difference. But in reality, we have to figure out a way to re-energize the Republican Party itself in order to help legislative candidates. And it's, there's a number of things we're going to have to do differently, obviously. And we're just going to have to sit down and figure it out, and we're going to go to the advance and try to make sure that we start having those very tough discussions and figuring out what we need to do. But
that's what
I think, number one, we got to work harder.
Well, there has to be some tough, candid discussions, Congressman. I agree 100%. And because my other concern, and I've said this all day, just because I understand how this process works, and so do you, Congressman, is right now, for the Republican Party of Virginia, there's a state convention coming in May. I don't know where it's going to be, Lynchburg, Richmond, wherever it is. Right now, there is no candidate to be able to defeat what is going to be a very conservative, Tea Party-oriented candidate coming out of the 5th or the 6th district who is part of the censoring Denver Riggleman faction. I mean, that is coming. They are going to run a candidate, and we have nobody. When I say we, I mean the Trump faction, we want to open up the party and get more votes faction. We have nobody to run against them, and they will get their people out, and they will win. And if they do that, they'll raise no money. The party will contract further. It'll all be based on who's in charge of what unit and committee chair, and it's going to get worse. And we have no candidate to run. That's number one. Jack Wilson is unelectable. He cannot win. If he runs, he will get crushed. I can't get anybody out to vote for the guy, so forget that. You're going to get Sean Spicer running for national committee man against Morton Blackwell. Blackwell will beat him. This is not Dancing with the Stars. They will get their people out. So you're going to be faced with a regime change in May whose sole objective is going to be social issues and contract the party. That's the problem I see. And I don't know how we're going to solve that at the advance, but well,
one of the things you could do is you could expand.
Am I
right about that? You're right if that occurs. If we have folks who don't understand that we need to bring new people, young people into the party, that we need to focus on suburban women. And one of the things we could do would be to open up the state central a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. Makes it harder to deal with. I understand that. But the more people who actually have a vested interest, instead of somewhere between 3 and 6 coming out of a single congressional district, you open that up to 10 out of a congressional district. That's more people who are going to the meetings in Richmond and making the policy for the party, and it also means that you've got more people going back home to their respective congressional districts who can say, wait a minute, I was in that meeting. That's not what happened. So I think that may be one solution. There may be others that other people have on ways, because it's not just the chairman, it's actually the state central committee as well. And I think that we just need to have a broader representation of all of the Virginians who are on the conservative side of issues. Whether we agree with them 100% or not is not the issue. We have to form our alliances. Look, the Democrats have a huge alliance amongst their people. Now they're moving to the left. They may destroy themselves in a few years, but right now they've been able to stick together. We don't do that. We get in and fight against our own. I mean, we had in Ben Chafin's seat, he had to spend a couple $100,000 because we had a fellow who, is a conservative Tea Party kind of guy, who decided that, Ben wasn't good enough. And he went out and he raised money and spent money and did TV ads, and Ben had to spend about $200,000 that could have gone to other races to fend off another Republican. They got into arguing over who was the real Republican. Well, the bottom line is the Democrats benefited from that. We have to understand that nobody's perfect, and we're not going to agree with anybody 100% of the time.
That's correct, Congressman. You're so
But if we agree with them 70% of the time, we ought to be happy instead of fighting with each other. Go fight the Democrats who we don't agree with, but 5% of the time.
Oh, you're so right on that. I mean, it's the 70. I call it the 80% rule. If I can be 80% with somebody, I'm 100% there, because that's political reality. You also look at the 28th House seat. We're with, by the way, Congressman Morgan Griffith. He used to be in the State House, was in leadership. He is now Congressman, Virginia, Republican 9th District. That's Southwest Virginia from Salem. You look at the 28th District, the Fredericksburg seat. This is a seat Republicans never should have lost. Bob Thomas had it. Bob Thomas wins that, is renominated. He wins handily. Instead, Paul Milday, nice enough guy, runs against him, spends $200,000 of his own money, beats him, and then he gets beat. What's the point? I mean, this stuff is pointless. All right, makes no sense to me, but it keeps happening. And look, there's a faction here, Congressman, and you know it well, and I appreciate your letting me rant on it here. I really, really do. But it's keep it small, control it all. And that is where we're headed right now, into a further contraction until we can find somebody to figure this out. And, you know, the fact that they're censoring, I mean, and I said this months ago, I mean, we're spending time, you know, in committees censoring a great patriot like Denver Riggleman because he marries a gay couple, and we're having meetings about it and tying up people's time and, you know, censoring him when, you know, we're fighting the world's battles here. I mean, it is so stupid, but that's what you're going to get going forward now. Here, let me just read you a text here. This is from Louise in Chesapeake. Great text. She says, here's an idea. Why don't you guys start building the party at the local level again and opening the tent like the Reagan days and throw out all the jerks that are divisive and unwelcoming to people like me in Chesapeake. I tried to join the party, never got in. They didn't like my views. I didn't fit in, so I walked away. Here's a perfect text right there of exactly what I'm talking about, and that's what we're going to get if we don't find a way at the advance to right this ship, Congressman.
Well, it's going to take more than just the upcoming advance, but I do encourage people to come with their ideas. But it's going to take more than just that. It's going to take probably 2, 3, 4 years for us to completely rebuild the structure, and then to start finding ways that we can raise the money necessary. Now, we don't have to outspend the Democrats. We never should have that as our goal. But what we need to do is have enough money to come to the table so that we're not drowned out. And if we're not drowned out by the Democrat money, then we get our message out there by going door to door and doing some things that are a little avant-garde that a lot of the political pundits wouldn't agree with. The one that I often do, that I would encourage many candidates to do. Everybody goes to the walk list and they just knock Republican doors. No, if you are an engaging personality, knock the Democrat doors.
Right.
Because they're not all in agreement with the Kathy Trans on abortion. They're not all socialists. And if you come across as a reasonable individual at their door, they're going to vote for you. If they never see you, all they see is TV ads, they're not voting for you. You've got to knock on every door, in my opinion, and we stopped doing that about 10 years ago. And we need to knock on every door, and we need to understand, yes, some of those doors are going to get slammed in our face. Some of those people are going to be rude. But some of them are just good, hard-working citizens, and when they see another good, hard-working citizen knocking on their door and saying, I will work hard for you, and yes, I don't agree with you on issue 1 or issue 2, but I do agree with you on issue 3.
Right.
A lot of times if that Democrat candidate doesn't knock on the door, they go, well, I don't like 100%, but I agreed with him on issue 3, so I'll vote for him. And that's how you win those close races. You don't win them by just talking to Republicans. And unfortunately, we started doing that, and in my opinion, way too far, way too many times that's the case. Now, all your political pundits out there would tell you I'm crazy. But as you know, I've been very successful at winning elections I wasn't supposed to win.
Well, you can't argue with success. Morgan Griffith, no question about that. We've got, I just got a minute. The Sondland reversal yesterday in the impeachment hearing, I'm going to totally switch gears, and I only have about a minute and a half. The Sondland, the Sondland, Ambassador Sondland, switching gears, reversing his testimony, what impact is that going to have?
I don't know that it has a whole lot of impact. I mean, we keep talking about all the stuff that doesn't matter. Here's what matters, and that is that one administration stopped an investigation in Ukraine, and the next administration said, we think you ought to restart the investigation, find out whatever there is to find. Get to the bottom of it, if possible. There is nothing to investigate. So while I don't think there was a quid pro quo, even if there was a little bit of a quid pro quo, it happens all the time in diplomacy, and unless there was an evil motive, and I don't think restarting an investigation that the Obama administration and Joe Biden stopped when Joe Biden's son was involved, and just saying, y'all restart that. Look into it. Find whatever you can. And if you can't find anything, fine. I don't know that that's a problem, and that's what people have to understand. The first administration, the Obama administration and Joe Biden, stopped an investigation using their political power and American taxpayer dollars. All Trump's saying is restart it. Nothing wrong with that.
Congressman, in 15 seconds, that was about the best analysis I've heard. Can I get you in the next day or so to call in to the War Room Steve Bannon show in the next couple of days and just say that? Would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely.
I'm going to text you as soon as I get off to get a day. I'm going to contact Steve, who's in our network here, the John Fredericks Radio Network, in his basement. We put this War Room together. That 30 seconds, you outline the whole thing. We don't even need an hour. Congressman, I got to go. You're the man.
All right.
Thank you. Always a
Take care.